What is up, CineNerds?
I'm JP,
I'm Ryan.
and what did you want us to do today?
So rather than do a specific movie or a specific episode, I want to do all of the incarnations of the Punisher. Uh, and JP, if you look, so we're recording this different locations. Obviously, you can see the four squares, but JP went above and beyond and made quite the montage in this corner above me. That is pretty spectacular. So I'm excited about this. Let's dig in.
So, we didn't talk about any of this before we started. Yeah, we just kind of
Not
said
not a bit.
we kind of just you kind of said let's talk about all the incarnations of the live action Punisher. Uh, do we want to rank at the end of this our favorite, least favorite to favorite, or how do you want to do this at the end?
Oh, that's a good one.
Hmm.
So I'll start off by saying, yes, we can rank them, and I can probably figure that out as we go. No problem.
Yeah, yeah,
I know who my number one, and I know who my least favorite is.
absolutely.
Uh, but at the same token, though, there's so many good elements and good qualities to all of these that I'm not going to be mad about any of it.
I agree. It's kind of,
Kind of.
kind of,
Uh-oh.
kind of. Uh,
So let me start this. Let me ask you to start with JP. So when I threw this at you, what was your initial thoughts? How did you feel about doing all of these versus just one?
uh, I didn't. I mean, I wasn't like upset about it.
You actually responded. I had other ideas, and I threw this one out there. You're like, no, 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 let's do that.
Yeah,
So
no,
you
yeah, no, I wasn't upset about it. Because I love the Punisher, and for me, and I when I first okay, let me my first interaction with anything the Punisher was obviously the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. I saw that film before I even knew it was a comic book. I did not even know it was a comic book when I saw the Punisher film. And that movie came out in, was it late 80s, early 90s?
the Dolph Lundgren one's 89.
Yeah, I thought it was around 89 to 90. Uh, so I was like, obviously, if it was 89, I was probably about 10 years old when it came out. And as a 10-year-old, I did not read the Punisher comics. I didn't know they existed, didn't know it was a thing. I was still reading Superman, Batman, Green Lantern. So when I saw this film, I just thought it was some crazy looking action film that I wanted to see. And so I watched it and I loved it as a kid, as an late 80s, early 90s action film.
So I saw the Punisher the year it got released on VHS. So it would have been 89, maybe early 90 tops.
Hmm.
And I saw that before I even knew it was a comic book. My dad rented it, and we were a single father, two boy household. So my dad rented it, we watched it, and I was just like, this is so cool. Thought it was amazing. Uh, Meanwhile, I had already been reading the Wolverine comics at this point. Wolverine was my first introduction, as we've discussed in the previous podcast. Wolverine is my first introduction to real comic book character heroes and what they meant. And it's fitting because he's so angry and he's so intense. And so for him to have these superpowers, be angry, intense, the whole bit. And then we've got the Marvel, essentially, to me, the Marvel counterpart to DC's Batman with the Punisher. The Punisher is a regular guy. He's had. I don't. Do you know when the first Punisher comic was made?
1974.
That you know what? That's wasn't he a first appearance was what?
I was
What
thinking it was
episode
in
was it? Oh,
Spider Man, wasn't it?
you know what? It was because I actually have a note, number 129, Amazing Spider-Man,
Hmm.
February 1974, and they paid respect to that actually in the Dolph Lundgren movie.
Hmm.
But I didn't know that, and so it's weird for me because in 1979, Mad Max was released from George Miller,
Hmm.
and to me, even though it's not post-apocalyptic, you have a very similar storyline here. You've got a man whose family is killed, who goes above and beyond to get revenge and crosses every line possible for the sake of his family, spirals into darkness in the pursuit of that. And so I don't know who copied more on who, because the movie, when the movies came out, and the film version of Punisher, I feel like there's a lot of George Miller influence here for sure.
They very well could be. I think it's kind of cool that me and you both have the same introduction to the Punisher. We both never read the comics, anything. It was just all of a sudden Dolph Lundgren on screen, and that was how we saw the Punisher for the first time.
Yeah, no, it was the Dolph Lundgren movie had its downfalls. There's a few things that are not great about the movie for sure, but it's also an '89 movie, but for what it delivered for the character of the Punisher, I thought the portrayal that Dolph Lundgren put on was pretty fucking spot on. Not gonna lie.
I think the thing is in '89 people were scared of doing comic book films. And reason being, I mean, you look at the track record of superhero films. I mean, with Doctor Strange, Captain America, and you had Superman that did great, but then all of a sudden you had Howard the Duck that came out.
Which I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I love Howard the Duck. However,
cinematic masterpiece.
However, Howard the Duck was a complete commercial flop, and so studios were scared of comic book movies. They were scared of Batman '89 to a lot of degrees, and so the Punisher, not being as well known of a comic as Batman or Superman, he's more on the level of, I would imagine studio execs were thinking, okay, this is going to be another Howard the Duck. We're going to do it. These people are passionate about it, but we're not going to give them a massive budget. This is what they're going to get. This is what it is. And I think what they did with what kind of budget they had in 1989 and the limitations they've had between special effects and the limitations financially and the limitations with just how things were done back then, I think that original Dolph Lundgren Punisher was great. And you had a pretty good cast. I mean, Dolph Lundgren, I generally love Dolph Lundgren, and obviously Lou Gossett Jr. was in this film, and I was a big Lou Gossett Jr. fan because of Firewalker with Chuck Norris, and then Iron Eagle films. A lot of that stuff that Lou Gossett Jr. did in the '80s.
Enemy Mine.
Jaws 3.
So, all classics. Louis Gossett Jr. He had this ability to inspire in his characters because he was so like, they never put him in a negative light. He could have been an antagonist in something, but I never saw him an antagonist. I always saw him as protagonist, and he was just so good at being who he was in every film he committed to.
Yeah. I love Lou Gossett Jr. and I think he is one of the, and not trying to bring race up, but I think he's one of those black actors that paved the way for a lot of the great black actors we have today. I mean,
without question.
I loved in the '80s. I love Lou Gossett Jr. The first time I saw him, I think it had to be Iron Eagle. It had to be the first thing I remember seeing him in. And I loved him in Iron Eagle. I still love him in Iron Eagle. He's that military badass that's like, as a matter of fact, but he has a comedic element to him as well.
Absolutely. He's just, I don't know. Though I like to, like, I'm going to reference it again because it's such a, my love for sci-fi comes before even horror sometimes. Enemy Mine, him and Quaid, there's just something that happened in that film that was magical. Mm-hmm. And I like Gossett. I don't know if it was because he was restricted by the dental pieces he had, but the accent he gave the character as he learned English was so good. It was just that's a beautiful movie.
Yeah. But the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, I revisit that one still. I will revisit that one over other versions of the Punisher. Like I generally love that even if you don't like it as a Punisher film, you gotta love it as a late '80s, early '90s action film.
What is going on, by the way, with streaming rights with all of these Punisher movies? Because trying to find the '89 version and the 2004 version is like pulling teeth.
Yeah. I assume it has something to do with the rights with the studios that did them, on top of Disney having the rights back and Disney probably shutting them down. But it's probably something kind of like they have the distribution rights, but Disney has the actual rights, and neither one of them's wanting to bend on what they owe, who's going to make what. That would be my guess. I'm assuming it has to do with Disney owning the Punisher now, but probably kind of like the Hulk. And I think they may now, but the reason we don't have a new Incredible Hulk film is because even though Disney owns the Hulk now, they don't own the distribution rights, and they don't want to pay. I believe it's Paramount or whoever it was. I can't remember who it has the distribution rights for the Hulk. They don't want to they can't make a Hulk film and without allowing the other studio to be the distributor, and they don't want to give that up. So I'm assuming, and I don't know, but this is all assumption, but my assumption is it has probably something in that vein of why those other Punisher films, those older Punisher films, they're out of print and they're not on digital, and they're harder to find.
All I know is whether it's Hulk or Punisher, I really, really hope they get their shit together before we see Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars, because I would absolutely be beside myself to see all of these Punishers in one realm together. Same with the Hulks. If you had variations of the Hulks, which should be happening anyways, they could CGI them, but all the rights and royalties, they need to lead. Like, I feel like these are where they need to go. Like,
well, I think kind of like with the Hulk can be in the like the Avengers and all these other films, but they just can't do a standalone film without paying the other studio, because they own the Hulk. They just don't own the actual, if they do an actual film. So that's why you always have the Hulk in Avengers. You have Hulk in, these other films, but you haven't had a standalone film since Edward Norton.
Who, by the way, that's a fucking excellent film.
Oh yeah, no, I love that one.
I was so over the top. Edward Norton to me is one of those solid actors. We recently reviewed Fight Club, and Edward Norton's Bruce Banner is probably one of my favorites. If I have to be honest, he is spectacular. I liked Mark Ruffalo in the beginning. I fell away from him at the end completely, because that end version, I know the comic storyline, but the Bruce Banner Hulk where he's intelligent is just, oh my God, I need the Hulk to fight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's just I would love to see, and I'll get back to this. I want to go back into the Dolph Lundgren Punisher for a little bit here.
Oh yeah.
I do feel that whether Hulk, Punisher, whoever, if we get to see the multiple incarnations of these characters come to fruition in these upcoming Avengers movies, the Dolph Lundgren one, if I'm speaking frankly, if we get away from the painted beard, because that painted beard was awful.
Yeah.
If we get away from the painted beard, though, that version of Punisher is probably one of the more true to comic, true to story versions of the Punisher you can hope for. He's in the sewers. He's dealt with his family loss. He's killed. I mean, I think it was a 5-year window that he killed 125 different criminal bosses. That is who we need. And they should honestly take a page out of this book when trying to write any other superhero comic movie, because they basically say, this is where we're at, and this is where the story goes from here. I don't need the whole backstory. We know the backstory of most of these characters from comics. And so the moviegoers coming in can get a quick 5-minute montage to say, this is where we're at and why. So them coming right into him already killing these 125 people, building into a new story, building into the depth of it, was great. Dolph Lundgren always looking drained, always looking like bags under his eyes, intense. The skull knives were spectacular. I want to try and find one of those props for my personal collection, if I'm being honest. It was great. It was good. I can't even tell you how much more I appreciated that. And because of all the fucking streaming issues, guess where I saw that?
YouTube.
Yep. That's the only place I could find it. I couldn't even buy it. I tried to buy it, and I couldn't find it anywhere to buy.
Yeah.
Actually, I take that back. Amazon had a $6 DVD version.
Yeah. You can find the DVD version, but if you want that Blu-ray version, it's expensive. If you can find it. Now, I think Dolph Lundgren, I mean, and I'm sure some people will argue with me, and obviously you're not. I think Dolph's Punisher is closer to the comic book Punisher than the next version of the live action Punisher.
I completely agree. I mean, if we're being real, like the Thomas Jane Punisher, he's not bad. He's not bad in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not saying that.
He's not bad, but if you think that is if you compare his Punisher to the comic book Punisher, he's trash. But
he's PG. That's all. He is literally the PG version of the Punisher. So I don't have an issue with it. And actually, I liked a lot of elements of the Thomas Jane Punisher, because Thomas Jane's Punisher had more depth, if you will, because his whole entire family's wiped out, not just his wife and his children, but his whole family is wiped out. And in that instance, like, what would drive a man more insane? So before we get to that portion, that whole movie is definitely very PG, very full of heart, kindness. It's too much. It's not. I like that they went right into it with Dolph Lundgren's, where they said, here's where we're at. And it was beautiful in that regard. But Thomas Jane, that one took a minute for me to get into. So like halfway through that movie, that's a little too long, pacing for sure. That movie, once it got going, I was here for it. Some of the shit he did was great, but some of it was like, ugh.
Yeah. It's Thomas Jane Punisher. To me, this is how I feel about it. Not just his Punisher, but I'm going to expand a little bit onto the actual film, because that actually is what becomes problematic for his Punisher. I think the villains are trash in the film. Then you have, he's more brooding than he is vengeful. I think he's more depressed and brooding than he is, I'm a psychopath and I need to basically eliminate everybody. And he's not creative with how he kills.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree. That was where I give credit. But go ahead.
I don't think he is, because to me, the comic book Punisher would never set up taking the mob boss's car to make it look like she's sleeping with somebody else. So it's creative, but it's not the Punisher.
It is absolutely the Punisher, in my opinion. So hear me out. There is a element of psychological warfare here to the fullest, where he fucks with somebody to the point where he kills his best friend and his wife. The best friend's gay, and he doesn't even see it, thinks there's an affair happening with his best friend and wife because of the Punisher, and kills them both over it. So I think that was more fucked than anything. I think that was the best part of him.
And then I think the whole comedic side of this film, with the people living in the apartments next to him as he's brooding, I mean, this guy, the brooding is what kills me in this film. Like, him just sitting there brooding like Robert Patterson's Batman was just awful to me. And meanwhile, you got his neighbors singing and dancing. It just did not work for me as a film.
So if they had established, like they did with Dolph, if it was already coming into it and established, and then he moves in and finds these neighbors who kind of gave him a little bit of a light in the darkness and brought him back a little bit, I'd get that a little more. So I agree with you there.
Yeah,
I completely agree with that aspect. However, the other parts, though, the strategic element of the psychological warfare, I thought was brilliant. I like how he convinced the inside man to help. What I found issue with was just the laziness in the rest of the film. So I feel like Thomas Jane, his Punisher, he is the best thing about the film. The rest of the film, John Travolta included, is pretty much garbage. I felt like they copied blatantly off of The Crow in the explosion sequence at the end. Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, it was all. And what's bad is it's not even the good parts of The Crow that it ripped off. I feel like they ripped off like versions of like the Crow TV series. You know, like. And then the flaming Punisher symbol, you know, like just like the flaming crow symbol.
Rewind. Hold on. Am I forgetting there was a TV series for The Crow?
You are.
What?
Yep.
When?
It exists.
I need to find this.
Not even. I believe there's multiple seasons of it.
Oh, what? Okay.
And I believe, actually, I got to look this up now, but I'm pretty sure, and I don't want to say who plays the Crow, but I believe it is.
Oh no!
I actually know the actor I like. If it's who I'm thinking it is.
We got to do one of these for The Crow. Because there's so many people who play The Crow now that it's worthwhile exploring this.
It is. It is who I thought it was.
Who is it?
The series is called
Walton Goggins.
No, the series is called The Crow Stairway to Heaven. It must be only one season, maybe two. It's 98 to 99. The person who plays the Crow is absolutely fantastic casting, and it's Mark Dukakis, who is the Asian guy from the Double Dragon film.
Yeah,
he also played in, was it John Wick 2? He was the main assassin.
So I actually thought that actor for the longest time was also a child of Bruce Lee, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah. He plays the Crow in the series, and he's the best thing about the series. I mean, the series actually, it's not bad, but it's just cheap.
So it's like Edward Furlong in The Crow?
No, it's way better than the Edward Furlong one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's way better. It just looks cheaper.
Okay. All right, let's get back to Punisher.
Yeah. So
the series of The Crow threw me off, so we'll get back to that.
So the one thing I will say about the Thomas Jane Punisher movie that I love, Samantha Mathis as his wife.
That was solid.
And I've met Samantha Mathis, and she is absolutely a sweetheart. Like, she is so nice. And she's done a lot of bad films that I love. Hence the Super Mario Brothers movie. She played the princess. I love that movie. I don't care. Anybody can hate me for saying that movie's great. That movie's great. She was also in one of my favorite Christian Slater movies, Pump Up the Volume.
That's a classic.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised we haven't covered that in SFW.
Well, you know what? I've wanted to cover Pump Up the Volume, but it's not streaming anywhere. It's the only reason I haven't.
Fair. Very fair. Well, let's move along here. Let's move along. Let's go into the Ray Stevenson Punisher and Warzone. What do you feel about that?
It's a horrible film.
Oh.
Hang on. Horrible film where Stevenson is the perfect Punisher.
Dude, he is the perfect Punisher, and I disagree about the horrible film.
The film. That's not horror. That's an exaggeration. It's a mediocre film with some great kills, horrible CGI, with the perfect Punisher with
I
Stevenson.
don't. What, I'm trying to think. Was it what? There was a CGI in that.
There's some CGI gore and stuff here and there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fair. I think Ray Stevenson in that era was probably the the best to that point Punisher, hands down. Warzone Punisher in the comics is easily one of my most brutal and favorite, and I was here for it, dude. Ray Stevenson just I don't he can whatever role he does, he can or did he commanded that screen. He commanded your attention, and like I love that he gives respects to his family, but as he like meets the little kid, and it starts making him think about his daughter. He starts becoming human again, almost, and remembering. And I was kind of choked up. Not gonna lie, like that was deep shit right there. And I don't know, I was here for that. I liked Ray Stevenson's Punisher a lot.
Yeah, no, I think he is a fantastic Punisher. I wish we had got more films with him as the Punisher. I hate that that film did not do well, and that film was not well received, and for reasons I'm sure is the reasons I just kind of mentioned. That it's kind of the film's not great. I mean, at the end of the day, the film itself is not great.
So my thoughts on that. So what you're seeing right now, and I'm gonna use I always come back to my favorite movies ever, Star Wars, right? So you look at the prequel trilogy, okay, and the prequel trilogy has taken so much shit and so much heat over the years, and now you've got this whole group of people who are like, wait a minute, it wasn't so bad. It was not as bad as we fucking thought it was, and we shouldn't be treating it this way. Jar Jar aside. And so with
Jar
that,
Jar's still better than fucking Queen Amidala in Revenge of the Sith.
we've already talked about that. We agree. Yes. That was Padme, you sucked in that. But anyways, with this instance though, with Ray, like I feel like this Punisher needs to be given another watch by any true Punisher fan. You need to really look at it and see what really matters. Because like at the time, yes, when it came out, was it the best Punisher? Probably not. No, I agree with that. But the fact that we gave it so much grief and all we wanted was this brutal Punisher the way he is in the comics, and we got it, and then we shit on it, it needs another visit, in my opinion.
No, it does, and it deserves that visit because of Ray Stevenson. He
Absolutely.
is fucking fantastic. I mean, there's a few, and it's not his fault. It's the cinematographer director's fault. There's some sequences that I do not like him in this film, and I'm sure the one that always comes to mind is the one where he's hanging from the chandelier or whatever, spinning around shooting. You know, that that same shot, that same scene was shot in multiple fucking films at that time period. I get why they did it. It was kind of a underworld thing. It was a Boondock Saints thing.
The Crow.
The Crow. It was one of those things that they just did in all these films, and I hate it. I fucking hate it. That's not Ray Stevenson's fault. He's doing what he's told. Ray Stevenson's great in this film. This is just bad directing and bad cinematography. Like, why are we going to rehash this style scene when you could just have Ray Stevenson come in there and blow everybody apart?
But you take the chandelier spinning thing out of the equation. I mean, I can deal with that fucking 30 seconds for the movie I got. Honestly, like I've got to start picking and choosing my battles for the things I complain about, because the things I complain about, really at the end of the day, if they're overshadowed by the quality of the rest of the movie, I'm here for it. And in this instance, I felt like Ray Stevens delivered.
Oh yeah, I not disagree at all. Ray Stevenson is top tier Punisher. He's at this point, yeah, he's the best to play the role. I just don't think at this point he's had the best film.
Fair. That's fair. I mean, and we recently have interviewed a friend of yours, Mr. Wheeler, with Graveyard Shark, and I think that he's got a lot of capability ahead of him. I think the roles he's been given so far, not the best, but he's doing the best he can with what he's got, and I feel like he could be a great actor, and I feel like he's got a lot of potential. So I can understand that. I can understand that looking at something like that. So real quick, I'm going to go back to the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. A couple of things I forgot to talk about. Nancy Everhard. Are you familiar with her and the role she's done?
I have to see which. I got to remember who she is.
She was Louis Gossett's new partner, who convinced him to, she believed him because of Frank Castle that he's still alive. So she was in Deep Star 6. She was in a couple episodes of MacGyver. She was in The Untouchables, and she was in Lois and Clark. I was like, why do I remember this woman? And it was because of those things that she was in that I watched. So I was a big fan of her. There were kids wearing Spider-Man pajamas in that movie, too, in a flashback sequence. And that was to pay respects from the director to the first appearance of Amazing Spider-Man that I had mentioned. Also, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say I am really familiar with her. It just I had to get her face in my head. And,
yeah. Her face is super familiar once you realize it.
Yeah, and it took me a minute because I was like, oh my god, who was that? But yeah, she's in another 48 Hours. She's in Deep Star 6 is the one I always remember her in.
Yeah.
And I always remember her in like all the one-off TV series she did too, with like Airwolf and things like that.
Yeah. She's in one episode of Airwolf. I do remember that. She's in a couple other shows that were like one episode, one character. But yeah, she definitely had that allure, if you will. And Deep Star 6 and Leviathan came out at the same time. And I was so torn. I was like, which deep ocean thing am I going to? Like, they're both equally great at the time.
They're both equally great. And actually, my favorite, which I can't remember how close it was to those, but was Deep Rising.
Which one was Deep Rising? Why am I?
Deep Rising is the one that has. He just died. What's his name? Treat Williams.
Treat Williams, okay.
And it's basically a prequel to Kong Island.
Okay.
It sets up Kong Island. It was supposed to be, the film itself was supposed to be setting up like a monster verse. And back in 98 is when this came out. It was supposed to be setting a monster verse with like the Kong monster verse back in 1998. This film actually leads you the back end of this movie. They land on an island, and it's Skull Island with Kong. But the film kind of didn't do well, and so it was all scrapped. But it was kind of a prequel to what was coming with Skull Island.
I'm here for it. I'm gonna have to go back. I know I've probably seen it. I'm not placing it, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. So Deep Rising.
Yeah, it has a great cast. The cast is fantastic. Cool. You'll know most of the actors in this film.
I'm here for it. The next Punisher we've already discussed all the way through Ray Stevenson's is Jon Bernthal. Holy fucking amazing!
I think I've actually said this on the podcast. I know I've said this. I say this all the time. The Punisher, Jon Bernthal's Punisher, that entire series, everything from Daredevil to the Punisher series to Daredevil Born Again, the Punisher series is my favorite Marvel anything live action.
I agree. And the only reason his Funko Chase is not behind me is because I have it packed in a box somewhere and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Jon Bernthal's Punisher is his personality, his embodiment, his understanding of the character, his depth of knowledge of the comics. He really owned every aspect of it. And you know what? When I hear him in the new Daredevil series too, and if you haven't heard those listening, Jon Bernthal has his own podcast. He has his own thing he does, and we're a small time podcast. He's got hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I don't know. He's got tons of listeners. All I know is that his podcast always takes that extra moment to go the deep, heartfelt route with whoever he's interviewing. And some of the responses, like Shia LaBeouf is one of the big ones he interviewed that really resonated with me. When you see Shia LaBeouf break down crying in tears about the one woman who stood by him through thick and thin, through no matter what he's been through, because John Bernthal brought that out of him as a human being. John Bernthal in real life is an amazing human being. He is a great person. He cares about people's inward workings, how they work, how they come together. He cares about every aspect of that. And then you've got this dark, brooding character he plays in The Punisher, which he also seems to have it almost seems like some of who he is coming from within. Like he's got his own personal backstory, his own personal ghosts he's fighting with and putting out there on the screen. And I feel pulled in every time he takes the front with Punisher.
He's brooding, but he's not pitiful me brooding like Thomas Jane's. He's brooding, but he's angry brooding. He's psychopath. He's a psychopath. He's all these things. He's a trained killer. He's all these things, and he portrays all of them perfect. In season 2 of The Punisher, I think it was the first episode, and I always think about this. The girl comes in to the club, and he's trying to save her. Then they come back out into the club. There's a big fight scene in the bathroom. And they come back out into the club, and he starts fighting all these assassins that are trying to kill this girl. And he starts barking like a dog at these people as he's fighting them. And I don't know why that resonates with me so much, but watching him feel that, is like it felt like it was just natural for him just to be, I'm a trained fucking killer. I'm you know.
You know what's funny about that? So my 12-year-old, he recently had an incident with school where a kid was just giving him grief over and over. And my son snapped. He got sent home. He got suspended just because of words he said to the boy. Just words. Nothing. He didn't do anything. But those words were so much that my son got kind of a reputation. And so I'm not going to go into what they were, but my wife wasn't thrilled. I told my son in privacy, I go, hey, if you need to make them think that you're really crazy so they won't mess with you, I go, just turn around and scream out loud, just like you're having a meltdown, if you will. And he's like, that's genius. That's great. I'm like, wait a minute. No. I was a little concerned about the advice I'd given him, but at the same time, like, it's like a frilled lizard. The frilled lizard will make itself look larger than it is for that moment and scares away its prey or predator, right? So I feel like whether John Bernthal's Punisher was trying to get people to back off or he was just going apex predator mode, I feel like that moment was spectacular when he starts barking. I thought that was so genius.
Yeah. And there's just so much that he embodies, and it's not just that. I mean, the final fight, but not the final fight in season 1, where he's fighting his best friend, and as emotional and angry and vengeful as he was in that, it was just like you felt it. You felt everything this guy's given. It's to me, that's why he embodies the Punisher.
Yeah, for sure.
You feel every emotion. You know, it's not just I'm gonna brood and I'm sad, and then I'm gonna go kill people. Like, you feel every emotion running through him.
So in that season, there's another antagonist, and it is the religious assassin guy, who is hunting him until they have their moment on screen and they fight through it and they work through it. But that religious assassin guy, his character, he's kind of like he's like a B-list Edward Norton, if you will. I can't remember his name, but he is who. Do you remember the video game Dead Space?
Mm-hmm.
If we had somebody to play Isaac, I want him to be that person. He matches Isaac, the character from Dead Space, and Dead Space would be phenomenal as a movie video game transition. But that character, that fight was surreal to me. That was amazing. And then going into that best friend fight too. Oh my God. There's no wrong with this Punisher.
Mm-mm.
There's nothing I have found that is a fault or a flaw in John Bernthal's Punisher.
Mm-mm.
So I am 100%, and I'll just say it now. I don't even need to like get in depth too crazy. He is my number one Punisher. There's no question about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine too. I mean, there's not been one better than him, and
No.
the writing, the storytelling, the emotion that he puts into the character, the series of the Punisher is better than the films all day long. And
So he's going to get a film, and I don't know if you read the same stories I did, but when they were asking him about the film, he said, "I finally feel like this is the right script to tell the correct story of the Punisher," and when he's invested in it as much as we are, that the product we're going to get is phenomenal.
yeah, yeah.
Was that a yawn? Was that a yawn, motherfucker? I'm not. I'm not passing that up.
You're boring me.
Wow. Jess, he just said I'm boring him.
Wow.
My wife's to the right of me because we're filming obviously in different places today, and she's cooking, she's meal prepping, and holy shit, it smells good. So this is really hard to focus right now because he's smelling this wonderful food over to the right. But anyways, no, John Bernthal though, I haven't seen. I don't even have a thing to complain about him.
Mm-mm.
And I can complain about him all.
Yeah,
So
I can complain about them all, but him, and he's perfect casting. He's had the perfect stories. He's the perfect blend of violence and the emotion he puts into the character. Everything about him being in the Daredevil series, everything about him having his own series, and it's just been absolutely the best.
the one thing I will make note of with him is I have never been so pulled back into a character because of the emotional depth that they went to be that character. Punisher was just kind of he was another Batman. He was Marvel's version of Batman to me before, and I loved him and I loved seeing him through the years. But like John Bernthal's version of it pulled me back in so much that I'm just like, he's one of my favorite characters. I'm not gonna lie, he's just brutal. He's amazing, and let's put the barking aside. Listen to his grunts when he's doing his action sequences, the grunts, the groans, when he's hurt, when he's limping, how he acts. Unfortunately, him, not this role, I can't separate him in other roles. So like he just put out The Accountant 2 and he was in The Accountant 1. And I was like, so the accountant's brother is the Punisher? So
You know what's funny about that? I have friends that I have praised the Punisher series since it came out on Netflix, and I have friends that refuse to watch it solely because he played Shane on The Walking Dead, and they hated Shane so bad on The Walking Dead they do not want to see him as an actor in the Punisher.
all right. So let's talk about Shane for a second. So him and Shane in The Walking Dead. First of all, I'm happy that happened because that gave him segues into bigger, better roles. But he played it so well that you hated him because he was doing what he was supposed to do. He made you hate him. But then there was a redemption story arc with Shane too. So if you really watch The Walking Dead and you're really into The Walking Dead, you know that there was redeeming qualities in Shane, and that Rick, you were in a fucking coma and everyone thought you were dead.
Mm-hmm.
So you came back and other people had moved on. Don't be mad at Shane over that, to me.
Yeah, yeah. He's one of the most hated characters on The Walking Dead, but you know what? He was supposed to be. That's how good of an actor he is. Now go watch The Punisher. Go watch his version of The Punisher.
Right. And not only that, but like look at an actor actor and character like the governor in Walking Dead. Like you hated him, but without him, you wouldn't have your story. You wouldn't have your Walking Dead because he drove that whole couple seasons of The Walking Dead. So yeah, I don't know. John Bernthal has let's put it this way: if there's any future Expendables movies being made, I want him in them. He is awesome. He knows how to be a badass. He knows how to be an action star. He's not a big, menacing Hulk of a human either. So, like, he's more realistic than other people. He's realistic as the Punisher. I feel like we couldn't have gotten a luckier casting and a better casting if we tried.
Yeah. So, do we actually want to rank these?
It's an easy one for me. Yeah, I can do it.
So, obviously, my number 4, Thomas Jane.
Oh, I've got 5.
Who's your 5th one?
Well, my 5th one will be Thomas Jane.
Okay.
But my number 1 is the comic book version.
So we're not. This is all Punisher movie.
All right, fine. If we're just talking about on film and TV, film and TV, I'll leave out the comics. Number 4 would be as well Thomas Jane. But I only blame the restrictions of the director and the PG attempt that they went for.
You know what, though? That Punisher is rated R.
I mean, I get why they did it, but at the same time, for that era, it makes sense, but it still was PG as it can get.
Yeah, but it was rated R. I mean, you can be...
I know, but...
It's...
I mean, the standards of what's rated R anymore are fucking grossly absurd, especially at this point. Now everything fucking flies. Everything's good. You got to, like, back then you had to pull teeth to get something to be a PG-13. Anything that crossed that line made it go to rated R. Now I feel like they let anything go because the FFC or whatever has changed all of their things. You can say bitch freely now. You can say all these different words freely. It's just, yeah.
My number 4, you know what? This one weighs, do I pick the one that has the better movie, or do I pick the one that's the better Punisher?
But they're both so good.
But they're both so good. It's close. It is damn. I think it could be. You could flip the coin either way on the 2 and 3. But my number 4, I am going to say, as the Punisher, it is definitely Dolph Lundgren. As a film, Dolph Lundgren is number 2.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. No. Just what is your ranking? Not
3.
Different categories.
I'm voting. Who was the better Punisher? He's number 3.
Okay. All right. What do you got for 2? Are we just gonna go straight in a row, or are we gonna go back and forth?
We do it back and forth.
All right. So I'm disagreeing. So I'm going to choose Ray Stevenson. This one's a hard one for me, though, and I say that very reluctantly because I feel like Ray Stevenson's character, Punisher himself, following Warzone comic line, I do feel like there's so many redeeming qualities, and he does it so well, and he's so dark. He nails it, but he's not 100% the Punisher yet, like to me. So I had to look at it like that, and I feel like Dolph Lundgren is more true to our comic version of the Punisher. So Ray Stevenson, you're number 3.
So obviously my number 2 is Ray Stevenson, and I feel the same. I feel like they're both pretty comic book accurate. Yeah. You know, they're both really close, and like I say, it's a flip of the coin of which one is the better one. But I think Ray Stevenson is just a little bit better as the Punisher. Now again, I think '89 Punisher is a better film than Warzone. I think Ray Stevenson is a little better than Dolph.
You got to do this as a whole, though. You can't do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, because I'm conflicted here when you look at it like that.
I'm saying he's my number 2 as the Punisher. As the Punisher, okay. We're not ranking the films. I'm ranking the Punisher. So he is my number 2.
So for me, I'm doing film and Punisher itself. So this is a big thing for me.
That's why I said if I'm doing the film, then Dolph Lundgren has the better film.
Yeah, I agree. So to me, I'm putting Dolph in number 2 because Dolph, once I got past the fucking black marker beard, That aside, that was so rough. That was so bad. But that aside, though, I do feel like the makeup team with the bags under the eyes, the living in the sewer, the already existing storyline of 125 kills, the dialed in character of the Punisher already existing, not so much here. Here's the backstory. Here, you have to love this person because their family died. It's already saying, hey, this happened. It's fucked up, but now we're here.
Yeah.
And to me, that I feel like a lot of directors in Hollywood in general need to really take a page out of that book. I don't need 20 more stories on Batman and how Martha and Wayne died. I don't need 20 or Martha and Batman's parents. I don't need 20 more stories on Batman's parents dying. I don't need 20 more stories on Superman's origins. I don't need any of that. We know these characters. We know who they are. Start us off with where we need to be.
You know what's funny about, that's one thing you liked about that film, the original version of that film, and I think there may be a director's cut of that floating around someplace at one point. There is an extended version of that film, and the extended version is the beginning of the film where it's all chopped up, kind of giving you a catch up of the film, of what happens, how family dies and stuff. It's all continuous. There's a longer scene. It does dive deeper into his family dying and him, disappearing. There is an extended version of that. So I don't know whose decision, if it was the directors or the studios or producers that said, hey, let's cut this down and get straight to the action versus this whole big opening with telling the backstory. But somebody's decision was to cut that out, but it was there, and there is a version of that does float around.
One thing I did find very interesting through these movies and the TV show is we have different versions of the kid scenario. There's 2 kids or 1 kid. We go back and forth from a boy and girl to a son. We don't really, and I think in Warzone Punisher, you just get the girl. Actually, he's got a daughter and a son. That's right.
Yeah.
That comic books, there's 2 kids, but the way they go back and forth between the 1 and the 2 is weird.
Number 1.
Well, I think we're both in agreement here. John Bernthal crushes, dude.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. He just, somebody who took the time to do the due diligence, to research the character, to read the comics, to embody that character, to care about the depths of that character going forward into a new movie, to make sure the new movie was right for that character. He just cares. He cares implicitly, and I am here for it. So anything John Bernthal does as the Punisher, I'm on board for it. I'm not going to look back.
Yeah, same. Anything that he does with the Punisher going forward, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's probably going to be my favorite thing of Marvel out there.
Yeah, hands down for me.
All right. Anything else? We got any recommendations? Film recommendations?
Oh, geez, we haven't. I don't feel like I've done that in a minute. You know what? I'm going to do a rewatch recommendation, and you're going to love this one. I hadn't seen in some time I hadn't seen Constantine in a long time.
Oh yeah.
And I rewatched it, and God, I love that movie. Like, it's just so flipping good. I rewatched it because they keep putting these rumors online about possibly doing the sequel coming back to life. Keanu's fighting for it. He wants to see that happen. He wants to see it come to fruition. I'm curious to see how they will approach it and how they'll go about it, and I fucking love it. I think that's an amazing film.
Yeah, I love Constantine. That film's great, and I love the TV series before it got canceled.
Oh yeah. The WB Constantine is excellent too.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
The series wasn't WB; it was Fox or something. It got canceled after 1 season, but then the Matt Ryan Constantine character jumped over to the WB on Legends of Tomorrow and all that.
Wasn't it flipped?
What do you mean?
I thought that was flipped. I thought that he started off as a one-off character in the WB's DC world, and then he got his own series from there.
Nope.
Oh wow!
No,
I'm wrong.
Yeah, no. His Constantine started on Fox or ABC. It was on one of the other networks. and it ran for one season, got canceled, and then WB, basically they campaigned to bring him back and brought him to the WB, and he showed up he was on Legends of Tomorrow. I feel like he actually originally showed up for Legends on Arrow or one of those.
He was in a few of the shows, like one standalone episodes, but then he also was back on the Crisis of Infinite Earths, where we got to see multiple different characters come back.
Yeah, but then he showed up as a part of the cast on Legends of Tomorrow, which I love Legends of Tomorrow. But yeah, the Constantine movie is great, and if you like Constantine, you didn't watch Legends of Tomorrow, God, that series is so good. That was my favorite of the WB series, was Legends of Tomorrow. If we're not counting Superman and Lois. But as for, the Arrowverse, Legends of Tomorrow was my favorite. But recommendation for me, I'm going to do a movie, and I talked to you about this a little bit earlier. I recently watched the new Kevin Smith movie, the 4:30 movie. And man, what a fantastic film. This film is so good. I won't say it's the best Kevin Smith movie, but it's definitely up there for me. Like the film, and I was telling you earlier, it feels like a Kevin Smith film. It feels like Kevin Smith did a John Hughes film, is what it feels like. And it's a movie it's loosely based on some stuff that had happened to Kevin Smith when he was young that impacted him, and it's basically about him going to the movies, and he asked this girl out to the 4:30 movie, and he goes with his friends to the movie theater to spend all day at the movie theater waiting for his date, and it's bonkers. There's so many cameos. It's a fun Kevin Smith movie.
How much is his daughter in it?
Not hardly at all.
So she's in it.
Cameo, and the cameo is fantastic.
He loves putting her in anything he does, and rightfully so. If that's his work, it's his work.
Yeah, her cameo is great. There's so many cameos in this film, and how he does them in this film is so good. Like he does like previews for other films, like when they go in to watch the movie that they're watching, and it actually pops up like and shows you the preview, and some of the cameos are in these previews, and the previews are bonkers.
That's great. That's actually well done.
So 4:30 movie, check it out.
I know a lot of our people in the live chat a few weeks back were discussing Kevin Smith's Red State. So I have purchased it and downloaded it, and I'm getting ready for a rewatch because I haven't seen it since it first came out, but I love that movie.
Yeah, Red State. I've watched it when it first came out and have not revisited it. It's one of the few Kevin Smith films I haven't revisited. But,
cool.
I have revisited Yoga Hoosers multiple times.
I haven't firstly visited, so...
Nazi sausages that go up your butthole to kill you.
See, this is what I'm talking about, JP. Get it in there. Say it. Talk about La Valentula. Go ahead.
And it stars obviously Harley Quinn Smith, Johnny Depp's daughter. I can't remember her name right now, and it stars Johnny Depp.
Well, shit the bed.
Literally.
On that note, all right. Where can they find any information about us, JP?
You can check us out at CineNerdsPodcast.com, and that has all of our socials, our letterboxes. Well, not all of our socials, but all the CineNerds podcast socials, our personal letterboxes accounts you can follow and see where we review and watch films on there. We also have our shop. I also just saw Ryan yawning again.
Well, that's fair since I pointed out yours. The difference is I yawn all the time. You don't. So that's why I was like, let's go.
Our shop is there. All of our YouTube links are there. follow our YouTube, follow our Apple Podcast, Spotify, follow our Facebook. Share all this stuff. Sharing's caring. Subscribe, comment. Please, if you're watching this live, or even if you're not watching this live, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment, not just in the live chat. Go back and click like on the video and comment actually on the video too as well.
Help us grow.
All righty. Till next time.
CineNerds out.
Later.
Later.